Stephen Miller has been by President Trump's side for most of his political career. The administration's crackdown on crime in the district is his latest project.
Here to discuss Miller's involvement, we are joined by Alex Gangitano, the Hill's White House correspondent. She covers the president, top officials from his administration, focusing on both policy and politics. So Stephen Miller is right in your wheelhouse. Just give us some background on this guy. A lot of folks may not be familiar with his history and his role in the White House.
Yeah, so he's been, as you mentioned, with Trump since the first administration, and he played a key role in the president's platform to run in 2024. Really, since the 2020 loss, he's been by the president's side working on his comeback. And now here he is as deputy chief of staff. And talking to sources around the White House, they've said that Stephen Miller is basically 85% of the think tank inside of the White House. Anything that's a big major issue they're working on, he is at the center of. He's one of the architects of. As deputy chief of staff, huge job, but he really has the president's ear, and that this crime crackdown in D.C. is just one of the many things that aligns with that. We know during the 2024 campaign, Republicans, Trump included, ran on crime, ran on saying that Democratic-run cities are a mess and they need to come and help us here in D.C. and wherever else. And then now we're seeing them actually executing on that where they can in D.C. So this is, I think we're going to see a lot more of Stephen Miller. We've already seen him standing next to the president, standing next to the vice president as they've been talking about this crackdown here in D.C.
It's so interesting. So he really is kind of the Trump whisperer, and not just the D.C. crackdown, but immigration. We know that Donald Trump campaigned on it, but it was Stephen Miller who really pushed it forward.
Right. He is really the architect of the immigration policy, the mass deportation efforts, the crackdown at the border. And this is what we're seeing in D.C., kind of the marriage of crime and immigration, because, you know, when the White House comes out with their numbers and says some 1,000 or so have been arrested, they sometimes will say, and among that, we're seeing a couple hundred get arrested, and not always saying what exactly for, sometimes saying that there are other crimes, sometimes just saying simply for being an illegal immigrant here in the district. That has Stephen Miller written all over this. You know, he was the person that would talk to the press early in the administration and say, here's our deportation numbers, and really tout how proud he is of those numbers. So that immigration component of it, I think, is really key to his involvement there.
Now that we're in the second term of Donald Trump, I think it's fair to say that if you're good on TV, the president tends to like you a little bit more. Stephen Miller is a firebrand. He's not afraid to mix it up with anchors on all the cable networks. But how has his influence grown? How is he able to get so close to the president over these last few years?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see. You're right. He is a firebrand. He speaks the MAGA language, and I think that's the reason why he's been able to be so influential and climb in the ranks with Trump, because the base, what Stephen Miller says, is what they largely want to hear, as far as we've been able to tell since the comeback in November. So when he goes on, you know, spars on Fox News or wherever else, he is saying what the president's most loyal supporters want to hear out of this White House on these top really controversial issues. He's willing to speak on it. So it's all come down to, you know, the president keeps a close circle, relatively close circle of his most trusted and loyal advisors, and he's really at the helm of that.
What's interesting is how much more public-facing he's become.
Yes.
Particularly the event at Union Station, where he was talking, you know, saying the protesters were out-of-town liberal hippies who were, what, 90 years old or something.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And it was at that Union Station event. I mean, he's standing with Vice President Vance, he's standing with Defense Secretary Hegseth, and then here is the Deputy Chief of Staff. It was quite striking to see, you know, this top official role in this really prominent position, and him getting that kind of airtime. He spoke as much as the others did. And then we saw him join the president in Anacostia last week. We discussed that after I was headed over there with them to meet with some of the federal law enforcement officials. The president spoke, but Stephen Miller was standing right there next to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. So he's been, you know, up there with the cabinet secretaries and talking about this push.
I'm so sorry. I'd love to follow. What does that mean for him? Do we have any idea?
That's a good question. You know, if there's aspirations of his own, you don't hear him floated as somebody who would maybe want to run on his own. Since he is so close to Trump, you know, would he just stick by whatever Trump is doing in the future. But it's an interesting question, considering his closeness to the base. And we did see him with Vice President Vance. If they have a good relationship, Vance is maybe gets past the torch in 2028. Could that be Stephen Miller's next job? Is getting Vance elected? I don't know.
We will have to see. We know you'll be covering it for us. Alex Gangitano, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you.
Of course, you can always see Alex's full reporting at thehill.com. A real interesting piece on Stephen Miller, so go check it out.
Yeah, it is. Hey,